Jungkook revealed his wedding plans on a live podcast, leaving Taehyung frozen in silence and the host scrambling for control. No one expected it, not the producers, not the fans, and certainly not Taehyung. "I'm getting married next month." Jungkook said it calmly, too calmly. His voice didn't shake, he didn't smile, he didn't hesitate. For half a second, the podcast studio felt like it lost oxygen. The host blinked, her cue card slipping slightly from her fingers. The cameras kept rolling, their small red lights glowing like silent witnesses. Across the table, Taehyung's expression didn't change at first. Not outwardly, but something in his eyes dimmed, as if a light inside him had been switched off without warning. The silence wasn't awkward, it was devastating. The soft hum of the studio lights suddenly felt unbearable. The smell of coffee on the table made Taehyung's stomach twist. His hands rested on his lap, fingers loosely interlocked, but his grip tightened without him realizing. "Wait, what?" The host finally laughed, the sound thin and nervous. "You're serious?" Jungkook nodded. "Yes, it's been planned for a while." Taehyung didn't look at him. The camera slowly zoomed in on Taehyung's face, as if sensing something was wrong before anyone else did. His jaw clenched almost imperceptibly. He turned his head slightly away from the lens, pretending to adjust his posture. 3 months ago. That was the last time they had stood alone together on the rooftop of a hotel in Busan. The night air had been warm, the city lights blurred behind them. Jungkook had held Taehyung's hand for just a second too long, not enough to be obvious, too long to be accidental. "Some things are better left unsaid," Jungkook had whispered back then, "but not between us." That sentence had haunted Taehyung ever since. And now it felt like a lie. "Well, wow," the host said quickly, forcing brightness into her voice. "Congratulations, Jungkook, that's huge news." Then she turned toward Taehyung, searching for something, anything. "You must be happy for him, right?" The camera cut back to Taehyung. His eyes were already glassy. He forced a smile. It felt like stretching a mask over a crack in his face. "Of course," he said hoarsely, "I'm happy for him." The words came out wrong. Not bitter, not angry, just empty. It wasn't jealousy. It wasn't betrayal. It was the sound of someone realizing they had lost something they were never officially allowed to claim. "We've always been close," Jungkook added quickly, glancing at him. "That's why I wanted to share it here, with him, with everyone." The sentence sounded rehearsed, too polished, too safe. Taehyung knew Jungkook's nervous habits, the way his thumb rubbed his ring finger, the way his leg bounced under the table, but Jungkook wasn't nervous now. He was resolved. That hurt more. "So, do we get to know who the lucky person is?" the host asked, trying desperately to steer the energy. "Not today," Jungkook replied. "I'd like to keep her identity private for now." "Sorry." The word landed in Taehyung's chest like a quiet explosion. Not because it surprised him, but because it finalized everything. Taehyung turned back toward the camera, determined to hold it together. This was live. This was public. This was not the place to fall apart. But before he could reset his expression, a single tear slipped down his cheek. "Just one." The host inhaled sharply. Jungkook's eyes flicked toward him, his composed expression cracking for the first time. "T, are you okay?" Taehyung lifted his hand quickly, wiping his cheek with the back of his fingers. He let out a small, dry laugh. "Yeah, just allergies. These lights are brutal." The host tried to laugh too, but her voice trembled. "Right, studio lights." The crew signaled frantically from behind the cameras, but the live feed still had 15 seconds left. In those 15 seconds, everything unsaid screamed through body language. Taehyung's shoulders sagging slightly. Jungkook opening his mouth, then closing it again. The host's smile stiff, almost porcelain. When the screen finally faded to black for commercial, the tension didn't fade with it. Off camera, Taehyung stood up immediately. "I need a minute," he muttered, already walking away. Wait," Jungkook said, standing too. But Taehyung didn't stop. The hallway outside the studio was colder, quieter. He leaned against the wall, head tilted back, eyes closed. His chest felt tight, like his own name had been erased from a story he didn't know had ended. Behind him, the door opened. Jungkook's voice came softly. "Can I come in?" No answer. Another second passed. Then Jungkook stepped inside the green room anyway, closing the door gently behind him. Taehyung turned around, eyes red but burning. "You could have told me off camera," he said. "You could have texted, called, anything." Jungkook stepped closer, guilt flickering across his face. "I wanted to, I just didn't know how." Taehyung laughed bitterly. "You didn't know how, we've known each other for 10 years. Jungkook swallowed. "I didn't think it would hurt you like this." Taehyung stared at him. "You didn't think." The silence stretched between them, heavy and electric. Then Taehyung spoke again, his voice quieter but sharper. "You said once there were things we should never leave unsaid. So why did you leave this one?" Jungkook didn't answer. And that was answer enough. Taehyung stepped back slowly, his hands shaking now. "Don't follow me into rooms if you're not ready to tell the truth." Jungkook's voice cracked. "I was scared." "Of what?" Taehyung asked. Jungkook looked at him, eyes dark, honest for the first time that night. "That if you said you still loved me, I wouldn't be able to go through with the wedding." The words hung in the air, naked and irreversible. Taehyung felt his heart stutter. "Then why are you?" he whispered. Jungkook's answer came after a long pause. "Because I think I owe her stability." Taehyung closed his eyes. And in that moment, he finally understood. This wasn't about love. It was about choosing the life that hurt less. The door knocked. "We're back in 5, the host's voice called from outside. Taehyung wiped his face once more, straightened his jacket, and looked at Jungkook with a tired, professional smile. "Let's go finish the show." The red light above the camera turned off. Applause filled the studio, polite, automatic, professional. Taehyung smiled on cue, nodded at the host, thanked the crew. His body remembered the routine even when his mind didn't. Jungkook sat beside him, hands folded neatly, posture calm, as if nothing irreversible had just been said between them. But the moment they stepped off set, the air changed. The hallway buzzed with whispers. Staff members avoided eye contact. A production assistant dropped her clipboard and apologized 3 times for no reason at all. Taehyung walked faster. He didn't stop until he reached the dressing room. The door closed behind him with a soft click, and suddenly the silence became too loud. He leaned forward, hands on his knees, staring at the floor. A wedding. A woman. A future that did not include him. He laughed quietly to himself, not because it was funny, because if he didn't laugh he might scream. His phone vibrated. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, almost, then he answered. "Hello." There was a pause, then a soft female voice, careful, nervous. "Is this Taehyung?" His body stiffened. "Yes, who is this?" "I'm sorry for calling you directly. I know this is inappropriate. I didn't know who else to talk to." Another pause. "I'm the one Jungkook is marrying." The room felt like it tilted. Taehyung didn't sit down. He couldn't. "Why are you calling me?" "Because I saw the broadcast," she said quietly, "and the way you looked at him, the way he looked at you." Taehyung closed his eyes. "I thought I was imagining things before, but now I know I'm not." "Know what?" Taehyung asked, even though his heart already knew the answer. "That he loves you." The words landed gently, almost kindly, and somehow that made them hurt more. "You're marrying him," Taehyung said. "I know," she replied. And that's exactly why I needed to talk to you. Because if there's even a small part of him that still wants to be with you, I don't want to build a future on pretending. Taehyung pressed his fingers to his temple. You shouldn't be asking me this. I tried asking him, she said, but he changes the subject. He says the past is over, but when he talks about you, it's different. It's not over, it's paused. Taehyung swallowed. Then why go through with the wedding? Because he thinks he owes me, she answered honestly. And I'm starting to believe he doesn't love me the way he thinks he should. Her voice cracked. I'm not angry, I'm not jealous. I just want the truth. Silence stretched between them. Then she asked the question neither of them wanted to say out loud. Do you still love him? Taehyung stared at his reflection in the mirror, the same eyes, the same face, but something inside him had shifted. That doesn't matter anymore, he said quietly. It does, she replied. Because if you do, and he does too, then all of us are about to make the wrong choice just to appear right. Another pause. He told me you gave him peace, Taehyung said. He told me there was no fire, she said softly. Peace isn't always love, and fire isn't always destruction. The call ended gently. No drama, no accusations. Just truth. Taehyung stood there, long after the screen went dark. A knock came at the door. Jungkook's voice. Can we talk, really talk? Taehyung didn't answer. He just unlocked the door. Jungkook stepped inside, eyes cautious, vulnerable in a way Taehyung hadn't seen in years. She called me, Taehyung said immediately. Jungkook froze. She did. She asked if I still love you. Jungkook looked away. And what did you say? Taehyung walked closer. I said it doesn't matter anymore. Jungkook exhaled slowly, as if bracing for something. Taehyung continued, maybe it does. Jungkook sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the floor. I was going to call off the wedding, he admitted. After the podcast, my chest felt like it was collapsing. Taehyung's heart skipped. Then why didn't you? Because I thought it was just guilt or nostalgia, but now, he looked up. Now I think it's something I've been burying for years. They stood inches apart. I still love you, Jungkook said. That never changed. I just didn't think we could survive it again. The pressure, the rumors, the world. Taehyung smiled sadly. We don't have to survive it publicly. We just have to be honest privately. Jungkook nodded. She deserves the truth. So do we, Taehyung replied. Jungkook pulled out his phone and typed silently. What did you say? Taehyung asked. Jungkook looked up, eyes glassy but steady. I told her the wedding's off. Taehyung felt his breath leave his body. The notification arrived almost instantly. Hashtags, headlines, their names trending worldwide. They sat in silence as the storm began forming outside the room. A knock came again, this time sharper. Jungkook's manager stood in the doorway, face pale. We need to talk, now. Jungkook stepped out with him. Taehyung leaned back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. He thought the hardest part was over. It wasn't even close. The private lounge felt too quiet for what was happening outside. Taehyung sat alone on the couch, scrolling through his phone without really reading anything. Messages blurred together. Managers, stylists, friends, headlines. His name and Jungkook's locked together in every possible language. Wedding cancelled. Secret love. Podcast meltdown. The door opened again. Jungkook walked back in, followed by two people in dark suits and a woman holding a tablet. Taehyung recognized her immediately. Head of PR. Taehyung Jungkook, she said smoothly. We just need a moment of clarity. About what? Taehyung asked. The narrative, she replied. We need to align messaging before this spreads further. Jungkook frowned. You mean before you control it? She ignored the comment. We'd like to position this as a mutual, mature decision. No emotional fallout, no third-party implications. Taehyung's stomach dropped, so no mention of me. Not explicitly, she said. It would complicate things. Jungkook shook his head. You want us to lie. Not lie, she corrected. Simplify. Taehyung stood up. You want to erase me. She offered a practiced smile. We want to protect both of you. Jungkook laughed once, humorless. You want to protect the brand. The PR woman adjusted her tablet. Be aware there will be pushback from investors, from partners, from global media. Let them come, Jungkook said quietly. They left the lounge together. In the underground parking garage, cameras were already waiting. Flashes exploded the moment the elevator doors opened. Security moved fast, shielding them as they were rushed into a black van. Inside the car, silence returned. It's happening, isn't it? Taehyung whispered. Jungkook nodded. Yeah, we broke the illusion. Do you regret it? Jungkook turned toward him. No, do you? Not for a second, Taehyung said. Then his voice softened. I'm just scared of what comes next. So am I, Jungkook admitted. But I'd rather face it with you than pretend alone. The city lights blurred past the windows. Jungkook's phone buzzed again. He looked at the screen, then handed it to Taehyung. Read it. The message was short. Tell him I'm not angry. Tell him to be happy. I already knew his heart was somewhere else. Taehyung swallowed. She's letting you go. Jungkook closed his eyes. She's better than I deserve. The car stopped in front of Jungkook's building. Taehyung reached for the door. Should I go? Jungkook caught his wrist gently. No, come upstairs, please, just for a little while. Taehyung hesitated, then nodded. The apartment was quiet, minimal. Soft blue light from a floor lamp filled the room. Do you think we'll make it through this? Jungkook asked. Only if we stop hiding, Taehyung replied. Jungkook smiled faintly. Then maybe it's time. A knock interrupted them. A man in a black suit stood outside holding an envelope. Apologies for the hour. This is from the executive team. An emergency review, meeting tomorrow morning. For both of us, Taehyung asked. You are part of the narrative now, the man replied. When the door closed, Jungkook stared at the envelope. They want to clean it up. Or control it, Taehyung said. Jungkook sat down heavily. What if they make us deny everything? Then we walk away, Taehyung answered without hesitation. Together. Jungkook searched his face for doubt. There was none. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He opened it. A video loaded. Behind-the-scenes footage from the podcast. Jungkook was on screen, packing nervously before the announcement. A man's voice spoke from off-camera, a company executive. Just say it carefully, we'll handle the rest. The video ended. Taehyung stared at Jungkook. They staged it. Jungkook's voice was barely a whisper. They used me. And they cornered me, Taehyung said slowly. They wanted my reaction. Jungkook clenched his fists. Then tomorrow we don't just tell the truth. We tell everything. The room felt smaller. Not because of fear. Because they had finally seen the system they were standing against. And it was much bigger than either of them. The next morning, the air outside the company headquarters felt heavier than usual. Taehyung and Jungkook stepped out of the same black car, dressed not for performance, not for rehearsal, but for confrontation. Clean lines, dark colors, no stylists, no managers hovering nearby. Just the two of them. They didn't speak in the elevator. Not because there was nothing to say, but because everything that mattered had already been decided in silence. When the doors opened on the top floor, the executive wing greeted them with sterile calm. Polished floors, frosted glass walls, the kind of place where emotions were turned into bullet points. A receptionist smiled professionally. They're waiting for you in conference room B. Inside, the room was already full. Senior executives, legal advisors, PR directors, two representatives from the global division. Cameras mounted in the ceiling blinked red, recording for internal documentation. Jungkook sat down first. Taehyung sat beside him. No space between them. The head of operations leaned forward. "Thank you for coming. We need to address the situation surrounding yesterday's broadcast, the cancellation of the wedding, and the subsequent public reaction." "You mean the truth that leaked before you could spin it?" Jungkook replied calmly. The room shifted. A PR manager cleared her throat. "We don't object to transparency, but the execution was emotional, off-script, live reactions without internal clearance." "So we were supposed to ask permission before telling the truth?" Taehyung asked. A legal advisor adjusted his glasses. "What matters is stakeholder confidence, market value, sponsorship alignment." Jungkook placed his phone on the table, screen facing up. "We received a video last night, behind-the-scenes footage from the podcast. One of your executives telling me exactly how to announce the wedding." The room froze. No one spoke. "You pressured me into delivering that reveal in a specific way," Jungkook continued. "Not just for me, but to trigger him." He nodded toward Taehyung. "You wanted speculation. You wanted engagement. You wanted drama." Taehyung inhaled slowly. "You weaponized my silence. You knew exactly how I would react, and you let it happen because it benefited the narrative." The PR manager looked unsettled. "We only wanted to protect your image." "No," Taehyung said. "You wanted to protect the company's comfort zone, not our dignity." Silence stretched across the table. Finally, the chairman spoke for the first time. His voice was low, controlled. "So what are you asking for?" Jungkook looked around the room. "We're not asking, we're informing you. We're going public with the full truth, on our terms." One of the global reps frowned. "And if that affects partnerships?" "Then you find partners who value honesty," Taehyung replied. Legal glanced at PR. PR glanced at the chairman. The chairman leaned back, studying them both. "You understand what you're risking: contracts, endorsements, future projects." Jungkook met his eyes. "We understand what we've already lost by staying silent." Another pause. Then, unexpectedly, the chairman nodded. "You have 2 hours," he said. "Write your statement, submit it. We will review it, not rewrite it." The room erupted in quiet shock. One executive whispered, "Sir, that sets a precedent." "So be it," the chairman replied. "If we can't adapt to authenticity, we will be consumed by fabrication." He stood, meeting adjourned. As the room slowly emptied, Taehyung and Jungkook remained seated, staring at each other. "Did that just happen?" Taehyung asked. Jungkook exhaled. "I think we found someone who's tired of pretending." They stepped back into the hallway, tension shifting into something else. Momentum. In the elevator, Taehyung glanced at his phone. A group chat lit up. Namjoon, Jimin, Hoseok, Yoongi, Jin, all online, all typing at once. "So, should we help you write that statement?" Taehyung let out a quiet laugh for the first time in 2 days. Jungkook smiled. "We're not doing this alone." The private conference room on the 11th floor felt nothing like a boardroom. It felt like a reunion. 6 chairs filled with familiar faces. No cameras, no PR, just people who had shared years of stages, flights, exhaustion, and unspoken loyalty. "This isn't just about you two anymore," Namjoon said. "You know that, right?" Jungkook nodded. "I do, and I hate it." "Good," Yoongi muttered. "You should." Jin spoke gently. "It's not about the relationship, it's about the silence. You both carried this alone for too long." Taehyung lowered his gaze. "We didn't want to make it about us." "But it is," Hoseok said, "and we're your family." Namjoon slid a tablet to the center of the table. I wrote a draft, read it, change it, but one rule, no blaming, no victim narrative, just truth. They read in silence. It acknowledged the rumors, the podcast moment, the emotional reactions, two people with a shared history who made choices out of fear, not strategy. It hurt to read, which meant it was honest. It's missing something, Taehyung said quietly. What? Jimin asked. It sounds like we already have everything figured out, Taehyung replied. We don't, we're still scared. Jin nodded, then add that being human isn't weakness. So they wrote together. Jungkook typed, Taehyung dictated lines, Yoongi cut anything that sounded fake, Hoseok added warmth, Jimin adjusted tone, Namjoon shaped the structure. It wasn't polished. It was real. 2 hours passed. The statement was sent with one line. Please post as is, no edits. Then they waited. The sun was already setting when the reply came. Approved for posting, live in 15 minutes. No one spoke. They watched the screen as the official account uploaded it. No teaser, no branding, just truth. The response exploded instantly. Comments, shares, headlines shifting in real time. Not outrage. Relief. People weren't angry the truth came out. They were heartbroken it had taken this long. In the quiet room, no one spoke. Then Hoseok cracked a joke that made no sense at all. They laughed anyway. The world reacted faster than either of them expected. Within minutes, the statement climbed to the top of every platform, trending worldwide, multiple languages, screens filled with the same words, copied and pasted into millions of timelines. Not scandal. Not outrage. Understanding. Comments flooded in. We just wanted honesty. You don't owe us perfection, just truth. Thank you for not lying anymore. Taehyung stared at the screen in disbelief. They're not attacking. Jungkook exhaled. They're listening. News outlets shifted tone overnight. Headlines softened. From secret affair exposed to two artists choose honesty over image. For the first time since the podcast, Taehyung felt the pressure in his chest loosen. His phone vibrated. A message from her. The ex-fiancée. He showed it to Jungkook. I watched your statement. You did the right thing. I hope you finally stop apologizing for who you are. Take care of each other. Taehyung swallowed. She's kinder than the world. Jungkook nodded. She saved all three of us. That night, they walked outside without disguises for the first time in months. No security wall, no cars rushing them away. Just city air. People recognized them. Some smiled, some bowed slightly. No screaming, no cameras shoved in their faces. Just quiet respect. Taehyung laughed softly. This feels unreal. Jungkook looked at him. Maybe this is what real actually feels like. They sat on a bench near the river. No managers, no schedules. Jungkook leaned back, staring at the sky. I spent years planning my life around other people's comfort. Taehyung nodded, me too. They sat in silence, not awkward, not heavy. Peaceful. Then Jungkook's phone buzzed again. He frowned. What is it? Taehyung asked. Jungkook read the message twice, then a third time. It's from the legal team. Taehyung's chest tightened. That doesn't sound good. Jungkook showed him the screen. We need to inform you of a potential breach claim. A third party is preparing to release private contractual material related to your relationship history and the wedding campaign. Taehyung blinked. What does that mean? It means someone's about to leak something, Jungkook said slowly, and it's not the company. Before Taehyung could respond, another message came in. This one from an unknown sender. A single sentence. You think telling the truth was the end. It was only the beginning. Attached a blurred screenshot. Old emails, internal memos, contract drafts. Highlighted in yellow. Their names. Side by side. Taehyung's hands went cold. This isn't a fan. No, Jungkook said. This is someone who wants control. Another message followed. If you don't want this public, you'll cooperate. Taehyung looked up. Cooperate how? Jungkook's jaw tightened. They haven't said yet. The river kept flowing. People walked past them, laughing, unaware that another storm was forming in the dark. Taehyung leaned his head against Jungkook's shoulder. We just got our freedom. I don't want to lose it again. Jungkook wrapped an arm around him. We won't, but we need to be smarter this time. Taehyung closed his eyes. What if they destroy everything we just built? Jungkook's voice was calm, steady. Then we rebuild it, out in the open. The phone buzzed one last time. A final message from the same unknown sender. Tomorrow, noon. Decide whether you want to be honest or exposed. Jungkook locked the screen. Taehyung looked at him. Do you think they're bluffing? Jungkook shook his head slowly. No, I think they've been waiting for us to stop hiding. The city lights reflected on the water, beautiful and fragile. For the first time, their biggest enemy wasn't rumors. It was someone who knew the truth before the world did, and wanted to sell it. Noon came faster than either of them wanted. The meeting location wasn't dramatic, no dark alley, no abandoned building. Just a quiet cafe on the edge of the business district. Too normal, which somehow made it worse. Taehyung and Jungkook arrived together, dressed casually, blending in with office workers and students. No security, no entourage. They chose a table near the window. 5 minutes passed. Then someone approached. Not a stranger. It was one of the former PR strategists. A woman who had resigned quietly 2 years ago. Someone who used to sit in the same meetings, smile the same practice smile, and talk about narrative alignment. Taehyung recognized her immediately. You. She sat down calmly. You look disappointed. I was expecting that. Jungkook's voice was steady. Why are you doing this? She placed her phone on the table and slid it toward them. Folders, hundreds of files, contracts, emails, private schedules, emotional profiling reports. You were never just artists, she said. You were data, emotional assets. The most profitable, unresolved storyline in the company. Taehyung felt sick. So you're selling this? She shook her head. I already tried. Media outlets won't touch it, not after your statement. The public mood changed. Then what do you want? Jungkook asked. She leaned back. Control. I want you to acknowledge what they did, publicly, with evidence, not as victims, as witnesses. Taehyung blinked. That's it. She smiled faintly. You think that's small? Jungkook narrowed his eyes. If this was about justice, you wouldn't have threatened us. True, she admitted. I needed to know you wouldn't run back to the company. Fear shows priorities. Taehyung clenched his fists. You used our panic as a test. Yes, she said simply, and you passed. Silence hung between them. Jungkook finally spoke. If we release this, it won't just affect us. It will burn the entire system, she replied, including my own career. I'm not asking you to save me. I'm asking you to stop protecting them. Taehyung's voice was quiet. You could have just sent this to journalists and be dismissed as a disgruntled ex-employee, she said. No, it only matters if you speak, because you are the proof. Jungkook looked at Taehyung. Taehyung looked back. No fear. Just clarity. Jungkook turned to her. We'll do it, but not as an exposé, as a conversation with names, with context, no revenge, no chaos. She nodded slowly. That's better than I hoped for. She stood up. You'll receive full access tonight. After that, it's out of my hands. Before leaving, she paused. You know this will change everything, right? Taehyung answered without hesitation. Everything already changed. We're just catching up. That night, they sat in Jungkook's apartment again. But this time, the table was covered with documents. Years of subtle manipulation, emotional targeting, strategic scheduling, deliberate narrative engineering. Not illegal, just inhuman. Taehyung whispered, they planned our lives like story arcs. Jungkook nodded, and we let them. At midnight, they went live. No press release. No editing. Just a camera. Two people sitting side by side. They spoke calmly, no accusations, no drama. They explained how their personal emotions had been shaped into content, how silence had been encouraged, how vulnerability had been scheduled. They showed emails. They named roles, not individuals, systems. By morning, the internet wasn't talking about their relationship. It was talking about the industry. Artists across companies started responding. Anonymous accounts, similar stories, different names, same patterns. The company issued a statement. So did three others. Investigations were announced. Panels formed. Policies reviewed. For the first time, the narrative wasn't romance. It was power. Days later, Taehyung and Jungkook walked through the same park by the river. No cameras followed. No headlines chased them. Taehyung smiled. Do you realize we just ended our own storyline? Jungkook laughed softly. Good, I was tired of being a character. They sat on the bench again. Same place. Different world. So what happens now? Taehyung asked. Jungkook thought for a moment, then answered honestly. Now we live, without arcs, without scripts, without needing to be anything except ourselves. Taehyung leaned into him. That sounds terrifying. Jungkook smiled. Yeah, but for the first time it's real. The river kept flowing. Before you continue, it is important to pause for a moment and gently reset the way this story is being received. Everything you have read so far, and everything that follows after this point, exists entirely within the space of fiction. This narrative is not a report, not a news account, not an interpretation of real events, and not a reflection of the real lives of any individuals. It is a work of imagination created for storytelling, emotional exploration, and entertainment, nothing more and nothing less. The names, personalities, relationships, dialogues, conflicts, emotions, and situations presented in this story are all fictional constructions, designed to serve a narrative purpose rather than describe reality. Even when this story borrows familiar names or echoes the public image of well-known figures, those elements function only as loose inspiration, not representation. The characters you encounter here are not the real people whose names they may resemble, and they are not meant to mirror, imply, suggest, or comment on the actual thoughts, experiences, private lives, or personal relationships of any real individual. Any similarity to real persons, living or dead, or to actual events, is entirely coincidental and unintentional. This story does not claim accuracy, authority, or truth, and it should never be interpreted as factual information or hidden insight into real-world situations. This narrative exists in the same space as novels, films, and television dramas, where emotional realism does not equal factual reality. It is crafted to explore themes such as identity, pressure, vulnerability, public image, and human connection, using fictional scenarios as a lens. The intensity of the emotions, the conflicts between characters, and the social consequences described are part of the storytelling language, not a reflection of how real people actually live, think, or behave. The purpose is not to inform, expose, or document, but to imagine and to feel. Because of that, this story should never be shared, quoted, or framed as evidence, rumor, proof, or inside information. It should not be used to fuel speculation, gossip, harassment, or assumptions about real individuals. It should not be treated as a source of knowledge about public figures, the entertainment industry, or any real institutions. The boundary between fiction and reality matters, especially in a digital world where narratives can easily be detached from their original context and mistaken for something they were never meant to be. Reading fiction also comes with a shared responsibility. The emotional impact of a story does not give it factual weight, and the familiarity of names does not make it real. This narrative asks to be experienced as a creative space, not as a substitute for reality, not as commentary on real lives, and not as a tool for judgment. It invites reflection, not belief, empathy, not investigation, and imagination, not assumption. Remaining critical, ethical, and mindful as a reader is part of honoring both the story and the real people who exist outside of it. So as the story continues, let it be understood for what it truly is: a fictional world shaped by narrative choices, symbolic moments, and imagined emotional journeys. It is not here to reveal truths about anyone but to explore ideas through storytelling. With that clarity in place, the narrative can now move forward, not as something to be taken as real, but as something to be felt, interpreted, and experienced within the safe boundaries of fiction.